Indiana was another place. Mike Pence was the former governor there. In Indiana, teachers do not have the right to strike. However, not unlike Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Kentucky, there is an understanding that there's not much the state government can do if they do strike. They can't afford to fire them and rehire all sorts of teachers. In fact, in Indiana, there is a big shortage of teachers. You know, we always hear that the real problem with teachers is that the unions won't let their teachers be fired. As if there's this big, long line of people who are looking to be underpaid after getting highly educated and working in crappy conditions with very little support, and then also demonization. In Indiana, over the past, now they're 31st in the country with teacher pay. So that's around $50,000 a year. In the year 2000, the average Indiana teacher salary was $59,000, almost $60,000. $60,000. And 17 years later, it is now $50,000. That's just shocking.
It's a lot of belt tightening.
That's a lot of belt tightening, and add in the inflation rate there, and they've almost suffered basically a 20 to 25% decrease in their salaries. So, and on top of that, they're getting charged more for their health insurance. So in Indiana right now, there is talk of another strike. They're watching what's going on across the country, and I guess we'll see where this leads. But there's been, this movement that is happening with teachers across the country is rolling on. And there was a story today, I guess it was in The Intercept. It was yesterday, about bus drivers in Georgia. And this was on Thursday, I believe, of last week, when Arizona school workers, teachers, voted in favor of a walkout. 400 school bus drivers in DeKalb County, Georgia, stayed home from work, staging a sick out. And the real question is going to be if there can be solidarity between teachers and support workers at schools, because teachers have a lot more power, basically because of their relationships, I think, with parents, than folks like bus drivers or janitorial staff. On Friday last week, 25% of bus drivers refused to show up for work. The sick out may continue through today. The school district leadership in DeKalb County has offered no such solidarity in terms of like school boards and superintendents with the school bus drivers. In fact, last Thursday, 7 of them were fired as sick-out ringleaders. So the big question is whether or not this solidarity is going to jump across the vocational lines that we see in a school. And I think that's going to be very telling as to just how broad this movement can go from teachers.
It seems pretty encouraging so far.
I mean, certainly from teachers to teachers and state to state, it's pretty impressive. And it's also, the question's going to be, within the schools, how much solidarity will there be between teachers and folks like bus drivers? And then also, how many other public sector workers are going to follow this model in states where they don't have the right to strike? Because it seems to me there's a whole host of different professions that are very difficult, if there is this type of solidarity, to replace quickly. Now, they don't have the same necessarily constituency that teachers have, because again, teachers are well positioned to develop relationships with the community because literally the parents want to talk to them every day. But we'll see. It is encouraging.
Yeah. And I just want to remind everyone, when you say they don't have the right to strike, they're not legally allowed to strike, but we all have the right to strike whenever we decide to.
Of course.
Rights are what we take for ourselves at the end of the day.
I should say they don't necessarily have the right to maintain their jobs under current law. Yes. Or that right is not fully recognized in these states. Let's put it that way. There are statutory protections in some states that there aren't in others. But yes, your point is taken. And they're basically learning that it's fairly effective, which is good news. I mean, we start to work your way up from 35, 35th in the country. I mean, the further up the chain we go, the better off we are in terms of education. But just the idea that 17 years later, you're making 15% in real dollars, not even real dollars, not even inflation adjusted dollars at that point. Plus your healthcare costs have gone up.
What did the Dow do in that time, though?
Much better.
Well, I think this once again shows the contradictions inherent within neoliberalism, right? Because, earlier versions of capitalism understood that we need people, we need workers, we need people to have kids, and you need to educate those kids. And, there was a certain level of social support for that. And now, guess what? Like, people are being squeezed, and birth rates are already dropping, I think, since the financial crisis. Haven't fully recovered, so I guess we'll see what happens.
Reproduction's going to be a problem.
No
Is that
one
what you're
left
saying?
to, work in your crappy jobs.
I mean, certainly in Indiana, apparently they can't get teachers, and I guess part of that reason might be because at this rate, in another 15, 20 years, they're going to be making half what they made 40 years earlier.